We are proud of what we achieved today in a facility, parts of which date back to the Great Fire on Parliament Hill at the turn of the last century. But we want to continue to be the best we can be, a leader in patient care, in research and discovery. So we began our planning almost a decade ago. We created a master plan for 2020 and beyond. In 2006-07, we convened a planning committee made up of the region's top healthcare leaders, medical professionals, and community leaders to help us with our planning. The committee recommended that the Ottawa Hospital of the Future should continue to be a 3-site model. The Riverside campus will expand its ambulatory programs on site. The general campus, which is 40 years old, will expand existing services, including a major cancer center, thoracic surgery, transplants, high-risk obstetrics, and the Eye Institute. And the Civic campus will continue to be the major trauma center and acute care center for the Champlain Lynn, and will deliver acute care in neurosciences, vascular surgery, and cardiac care, co-located with the Heart Institute. Many of you may recall that in the mid-90s, prior to the Health System Restructuring Commission's merger, health experts recommended demolition of the Civic campus. It was deemed to be too old to restore and rebuild. And that was 20 years ago. You won't be surprised then to learn that in 2007-08, the Planning Committee did not recommend rebuilding the Civic campus on site. It would create unsafe conditions for patients and disrupt our staff. It would take more than 20 years to complete, and all of this at an additional cost of about $800 million. The Planning Committee then engaged a panel of key stakeholders and experts to identify potential sites for a new Civic and evaluate them against a list of 12 criteria to determine which sites would best meet the healthcare needs of the community, the citizens of Ottawa, in the 21st century. We needed 50 to 60 acres. We needed to be close to the city center. Our patients and ambulances needed multiple access points, and we needed to be close to the Queensway and public transit. After a comprehensive review that took over a year, the Carling Avenue site scored the highest in the city core. We reported our panel's recommendations to the federal government in 2008. Of the dozen sites that we assessed, 11 were federally owned. So we needed their agreement to secure a site, and we were informed that our request would be considered. In 2012-13, we again asked the federal government for an update, and we were told that a process was underway, but it would take some time before a decision was made. We were subsequently asked to provide information to government to help inform their decision on the land. And in November 2014, we all learned that the site across the street from our existing site would be transferred to the NCC and leased to the Ottawa Hospital for a new Civic campus. We were delighted because with a site, we could now begin engaging our community on design and vision for that 21st century hospital. However, we then learned that the process for the land transfer may take up to a year. And towards the end of that process, we learned that the location of the hospital was a concern. Because of this, and the fact that our site selection was actually 8 years ago, the federal government has undertaken a review of potential sites to determine if any changes have occurred and whether those changes might influence site selection today. We are working closely with the federal government and the city to provide more up-to-date information on 4 potential sites in the city core. The Sir John Carling parcel, which is at the northeast corner of the experimental farm, Tunney's Pasture, the original parcel of land on the northwest corner of the farm, and a modified version of the original parcel. As we will be long-term tenants of the federal government, we are working diligently with them to finalize a site. Our overarching goal has not changed. We remain committed to provide the best healthcare possible to the citizens of the National Capital Region, not only for this generation, but for generations to come.